Hey guys, welcome back, or to the channel. We are going to be installing a steel stud bench with an angle on it so that when you're in the shower, it'll both not move, because I'm going to frame it like a tank's going to ride on it, even though a tank's never going to be put on it. Because if you did put a tank on it, it's going to get crushed. That's just the way it is. But we're going to frame it out so that it's impossible to budge. Not only that, we're going to angle it, because this is going to come out just a little bit from the wall, but we're going to angle it. So you have the normal rectangle, but we're going to cut a 45 off of it, and then I'll give you the perfect opportunity to put your foot on when you're shaving your legs. I don't shave my legs, but I know other people do in this world, so I'm building it out of respect for them. Be safe, guys. Let's get to it. Before you start any project or install, it's important to take a look at the site of where you're going to be performing the work. Right now, I got the customer with me today, and I was able to draw out in rough, very crude, the area where the bench is going to be installed, just 20 inches higher. I added the angle there so they could see it, take a visual representation, and that way snap a shot, send it to the wife, get the permission from the boss, and then I go to work. But as I'm going to work, I'm just throwing this stud against the wall, the metal there you see, and I'm like, you know what? I can do better than this. And I'm still struggling with the idea, kind of formulated in my mind. I got a eureka moment coming up, and I'm like, you know what? Let's do some structural forming of this bench and make it awesome so it's all tied in together. So I switch that. I go to the wall to the right of me, and I put in this steel stud there about 40 inches up, tie it in to the wall, add a little bit of back framing, and now the niche, which is tied into that right wall, and then also it's attached to everything coming across there. It's all one solid piece. That's the most important part. So that knee wall that I just kind of created there, that's going to be attached to the bench, and then everything's going to be one solid piece. Now I continue this, and this is my methodology with everything I build. For framing, steel studs, wood studs, whatever the case is, I want to tie into as much structure as possible so that you can park a tank on this bench. Now you see me here, I'm cutting everything up. What I ended up doing was making another plan on the ground, and I gave myself all the angles, all the cuts, everything necessary to get this bench in play, as you see there. And from there, once you got all these angles and stuff and everything's level, and that was the biggest part of this, is keeping it level, because there's so many angles, so many things in the air that you have to keep testing everything. And then as you see here, I'm formulating. I did it backwards, honestly. I did it backwards, so I had to redo it. But I'm building in structure to this. And I also screwed from both sides of every single stud. So everything is sandwiched together, so it's not going to move ever, at least to my hope. Like, I'm trying to my best here. But I must have used a good 100 screws or more just on this alone. And I used the channels plus the studs to create what would be a wood stud, but better, because now it's all screwed together to formulate the best bench possible. It's square, it's level, it's back framed, it's awesome, and it's freestanding in the air, which is part of their design. So that little corner there that I cut off, that's the perfect area to put your foot while you're shaving your leg, which is awesome. Originally, it was going to be just a sharp 90-degree angle. So you could bump into it, you could knock it. If you fell, you could cut yourself, or worse, you could damage your body from how sharp that would have been. It could be marble, it could be granite, it could be something, and it will slice and dice you. I didn't want that to happen. I want my customer to be happy, safe, and secure while they use my creation, the bench that they wanted, safely. So guys, I did an amazing job with that bench. It took me back to the days when I worked in condos and where I was doing steel stud framing. And I missed a lot of things. My hands aren't as tough as they used to be, so I had some slices and dices. I actually thought I had a sliver. It ended up being that I sliced my thumb open. You can't tell right now because like I heal pretty fast. Everything's all kind of buttoned up back together. But for the next part of the day, everything I was touching and grabbing onto or twisting, I was just like, oh. And I could see that it was open too at that time. But I digress. That bench was awesome. My customer was over the moon. He was impressed because he challenged me at the beginning. He's like, you're really going to build it out of steel? I'm like, heck yeah, I am. Everything else is here, steel studs. And he's like, but everything's reinforced with wood. Yes, but I can do this. If you want me to do it, I can do it. Or I can change it back to wood and that's cool too. I just have to run out, go to the store and grab some stuff, come back in, and then can just put it all in together. And what I would do in that case is I would get, because it's 2x6 steel stud, and the store is obviously, well, I just found that recently. I say obviously, it's obvious now, but that kind of stuff is higher end houses, and I go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and I did, and they don't have that kind of stuff. The most they have is typical 2x4 steel stud. I'm just like, ah, but they don't have a lot of demand for it, so I guess that's why it is. Anyways, another good thing about steel studs compared to framing studs, or no, sorry, framing studs, wood studs, is that the insulation isn't that 14 and a half, it's actually the 16 inches from that stud, from stud to stud. So you get more insulation, plus you have all the rigidity of the steel. And then if you're using Roxol, it's Roxol is not flammable. The steel studs are obviously not flammable, so you have a very good house. That house is made out of concrete forming, so again, not flammable. So that's excellent. I really do like steel studs. A lot more work, a lot more measuring and whatnot. And when you screw something in, it could disturb the other side. Whereas, and it's kind of because it's malleable, bendable. Whereas wood, you got a solid piece of matter, and you have to force it to twist it. Otherwise, it's the form that it's in. So you have to learn a different kind of way on how to frame stuff. Like I said, steel stud. Make sure you have your square. Make sure you have multiple levels. Magnetic or non-magnetic, sometimes it helps, sometimes it's a pain, but so I kind of recommend both, but I use non-magnetic levels today to get that done. And as you saw in the video, I'm measuring, checking, and then checking level to make sure everything is good and kosher. And even at the end, I did notice that I was down about 1/8 of an inch on the far side, whereas all those bends, because it's tricky. And I did have it secure where it was perfectly level. I used my 24-inch level, and I checked it with the 48-inch level, and it said, okay, you're good to go. But by the time I was all done, it was down just that little bit, so I missed something in tightening everything up, or I moved something some sort of way. It's 1/8 of an inch. I don't know if anybody's going to balk or give me heck for it or whatever, but I like things to be perfect, and I noticed that, which it still bugs me right now, but I'm like, you know what? And I stood on it, it's not even a word. Well, it is a word, but it's in a different kind of sentence context. And my phone is slowly dying. So, at 10% battery, I'm going to keep on going. And it's kept my weight. I came off of it. Like, I was looking for the flex to see what it needed. And there wasn't a lot of flex to it, which I was very happy with. My customer was over the moon with it. And that's how I build in condos. You cannot put wood in condos. Or at least when you do, they frown upon it. So like door frames and stuff you can get away with, but they don't want you putting wood in bathrooms and things of that nature. So you have to build these structures as they are in the bathroom. And that's what I did today. So my customer, again, I keep saying that he was happy. He was. He took a hold of it, and he tried to shake it or whatever. He pulled on it, same as I did when I was building it, and he was impressed. And when that happens, man, that's a good feeling. That is a great feeling. Took a picture of it, sent it to his wife. He did that FaceTime thing I never do. And he introduced me to his wife and kids and everything through the phone, which is quite awesome. Very, very surreal moment. And what do you call it? Flipped it forward back over, was showing the bench work to her, showed her the niche and whatnot. And she was concerned about how big the niche was. And I said, well, and he said the same thing too. Once the tile's in there, you're going to lose that inch top and bottom. So it'll be 2 inches shorter both ways all the way around once it's all boarded in and tiled. So that all going forward, everybody's happy. I'm happy. The drywallers start next week. And I chose today because the concrete polishing guys are going to be there. The floors are all concrete. Everything's concrete. Walls are concrete. They've got all the styrofoam forms. I forget what that is, but there's an industry term behind it, which are amazing stuff. I used to have some work in that kind of thing. And basically, the forms come to the job site. They all get set up, and then you pour the concrete, and there's insulation on either side of the concrete. Gives it that thermal barrier to get the work done, which is amazing. They should build houses like normal houses with that stuff all over the place. but we don't. It's LLC. I could be wrong on that. But it's an old technology that we don't use. The same with like the weeping tile and whatnot. There are different ways to do weeping tile where you would have, say you do the framing for the footings around the house. If you use a certain kind of weeping tile, and it's for the footings. The weeping tile is the framing, but it's also the weeping tile at the same time. It's a two-in-one, so you do a little bit less work, but get the same job done. And that's not a very popular option. I never actually seen it done on a home. It's usually just all out of wood. They split the wood off or whatever. Then they do all the weeping tile and put all the stone and rocks and stuff like that, so it has a way to for the water to access it. And it's just kind of like, okay, all right. But there are so many different kinds of technology out there, but it's not standard. It's not code. So if you want to build a house, there are literally thousands of ways you can approach it, from like your normal foundation to a temporary structure like a home, to like a trailer style structure home where you join a bunch together, or a shipping container, or just your conventional home. There's so many things you can do. It's mind-boggling. So like for my customer, he wanted me to make it out of wood. I said I could do it as steel stud. He's like, all right, because like I said, I gave him that option where I would change it to be wood. So again, I'm repeating myself. To do that, I would get the steel, the 2x4s, or sorry, 2x6s, put it into this 2x6 steel studs, and then they'd be reinforced with wood. Kind of redundant, but in a way. And then at that point, I would still use the same 2x4s or 2x6s, depending on how thick they wanted the bench. It's a 2x4 bench. But I could still do it with the 2x6s, and then just build the bench again the same way as you saw it. I'd have the outer frame, and then I would have the inner frame going across, and then I would just back frame it like you saw. Which one is better? That's open to interpretation, but I chose this way because that's the way I know from working in so many different condos, and he was happy, I'm happy, it's done, on to the next one. So with that said, I've just been yammering on forever. Thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you in the next one. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. Peace. I want to enjoy my movie.